Yes. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are on the globe. Thanks for joining this live event. We are very happy that you join. This is the second event organized by the Global Soil Museum Network in celebration of World Soil Day. And World Soil Day this year is dedicated to saline soil, so halt, salinization, and boost productivity. And we have made up a program of today that we discuss soils, of course, and with a focus on saline soils. So we have a nice program put together, and let me show you the program of today. We will have an introduction by first an introduction by Professor Mariana Amato, who will introduce us to the Global Soil Museum Network, which is a young network dedicated to education on soils. Then we have a very special guest, Ms. Natalia Rodriguez from FEO, from the Global Soil Partnership, and we're very happy and proud that Ms. Rodriguez will address us and speak a few words on today. After that, you will be joining us to have a look inside 3 museums, or maybe 4. I'll explain it later. So we will first go to the Dokuchaev Central Soil Museum, where we'll be guided by Ms. Julia Timofeeva. And after that, we'll have a tour from where I am now in the World Soil Museum. And we have a very special exhibition here. It's the Museum of Edible Earth. And Masharu, the artist, will introduce us to that very special collection. After that, we'll go to the Emirates, Soil Museum of the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, where we will be introduced by Dr. Lira and Rima Afani on the topic of saline soils. So after each of the tours in the museums, we will have opportunity to forward some questions and discuss those. And well, I'm looking forward to a very nice program, and I would like to give the floor to Professor Amato to introduce to you the Global Soil Museum Network. So the floor is for Mariana Amato.
Hello, I'm Mariana Amato and introduce the Global Network of Soil Museums. It's a network of organizations which display soils and tell about their importance, their properties, and their beauty. We know that this hidden ecosystem is often known to experts only, but it's our experience that soil museums, education centers, organizations hosting collections of soil samples are invaluable in raising awareness on soils, whether they do so within education programs or outside the research and teaching community and to the general public. This network starts with a core group of founding members, including the Dokuchaev Central Soil Museum in Russia, the Emirates Soil Museum in the United Arab Emirates, the Mira Soil Museum in Italy, and the World Soil Museum in the Netherlands, which also hosts the network website. The idea of the network is to provide a space for collaboration and support of members and to be more effective in the common goal of widening the knowledge of soils. We wish to do so through networking, of course, and through sharing experiences and best practices on exhibits and education, through planning joint exhibition, for instance, virtual ones. And we believe that being in a network makes us more effective in conveying our own education materials and reaching a wider audience through that. The network is young and is actively recruiting new members. So we encourage soil museums, soil collection institutions, and education centers to visit our webpage at soilsexposed.org and to join us. And we invite everybody to spend a day at a soil museum.
So thank you very much, Mariana. That is a nice introduction to the Global Soil Museum Network. And of course, it's true that if we do not teach youngsters and they are never exposed to the idea, the concept of soil, how do we expect that future generations will take care of soils and pay attention to soils as an important natural resource? So we do not see enough of soil in the news, in the newspaper, on the media, in schools, in school curricula, and also in museums. I must be fair to say, in natural history museums. Luckily, there are many natural history museums that show soil as a natural resource, but then again, we should promote that more, and especially soil museums and expositions dedicated to soil, the topic of soil, and the many functions of soil and science of soil in research. So, and we've seen wonderful images that Mariana Mato presented, where we see children in museums and different approaches, how people educate and advocate soils to youngsters, but also the general public. And that's quite important. And I think many soil museums and expositions have evolved more or less in isolation, but we are in an era where we are much more connected now in the world. And I think there's so much to learn from each other, how on different expertise, share expertise, tools, protocols, but also and develop joint activities. So there's much to gain from the Global Soil Museum Network. And I think we will see much more of that as we grow. So thanks, Professor Amato. And I would like to give the floor now to Ms. Natalia Rodriguez. She is a Land and Water Officer and also part of the Secretariat of the Global Soil Partnership that initiates the World Soil Day. So we are very happy to have you, and the floor is yours, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And it is indeed a pleasure to be here with you today from a very rainy Rome. So yes, it is an honor to celebrate also with you this 8th UN World Soil Day under the motto Halt Soil Salinization, Boost Soil Productivity. This annual event was established less than a decade ago under the leadership of the Kingdom of Thailand and within the framework of the Global Soil Partnership. Then in 2013, FAO supported the formal establishment of the World Soil Day as a global awareness raising platform. And in December that year, the United Nations General Assembly designated 5th December as the UN World Soil Day. Since 2014, different topics have been chosen to celebrate this day and raise awareness on different aspects of soils. Celebrated around the world by a growing number of people each year, the World Soil Day helps to raise awareness of the importance of healthy soils and the need to protect them. Only last year, imagine hundreds of millions of participants celebrated World Soil Day in more than 105 countries and made World Soil Day one of the most celebrated UN observances. Soils are fundamental to our daily lives, providing key ecosystem services that are often forgotten, are taken for granted. We depend on them for the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. And without healthy soils, no life is possible on the planet. Yet, about 33% of all soils are already degraded, and the state of soils is deteriorating at an alarming rate. Soil salinization and acidification are one of the top 10 threats to soil worldwide. Although this problem has long been neglected and only considered as a local problem on a very small scale and in very specific regions. But actually, salt-affected soils are found on all the continents. Some of the most affected regions are the Middle East, South America, North America, and Central Asia, although no continent is spared from the problem. Even countries not usually associated with salt-affected soils can face issues related to salinization and acidification. In agriculture, salt-affected soils are rapidly increasing problem worldwide because of climate change, increased water scarcity, and unsustainable management practices. According to the recently launched global map of salt-affected soils, it is estimated that over 833 million hectares of soils are already salt-affected around the world. Over 10% of cropland worldwide is affected by salinity or soticity. And this salinization is costing about 27.3 billion in loss of crop production per year. This is likely to be an underestimation due to the lack of information and the latent salinity risk existing in many landscapes where salts are lying below the surface. And this is where soil museums play an essential role in raising awareness of the importance of healthy soils for our food security and nutrition, our development and our well-being. This is without underestimating the scientific and educational capacities of the museums and the historical value they have in housing soil collections that in many cases date back in several centuries. I'm very pleased to see the progress in the creation of this global network of soil museums and hope that it will serve to bring this precious resource to many more people around the world. Please do count on the Global Soil Partnership for making this network a real success. Today, soils are rooted in the global agenda, and thanks to the action of all of you, their importance is increasingly recognized by children, young, and adults. FAO and its Global Soil Partnership invite you all to join our efforts in the fight against soil degradation and to halt soil salinization and boost soil productivity. Happy World Soil Day to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez. That was a very strong statement for getting more attention for soils in general, but specifically for saline soils and the effort FAO puts in getting more attention for soils around the world and promoting soil knowledge and exchange of knowledge. And I must say it's true that from my own experience, I see that saline soils get a lot of attention in our museum because sometimes they have a beautiful appearance, and I've seen one of the most beautiful soils in my life near the Gobi Desert in a wonderful expedition in Mongolia. And even though they look beautiful, they are really problematic. So it's something that needs to be addressed, recognized. And of course, we need to try to avoid salinization, remediate salinized soils, and be aware of the different opportunities for management for saline soils, because climate change, as you said, is indeed a factor into play much in many aspects, but also in saline soils. And we also have to think about alternative land use strategies like saline agriculture. But we will hear more about this in the tours that are waiting for us. And I'd like to so again, thank you, and also for stating your support of FAO for the Global Soil Museum Network. So I would like to give the floor now. Let's go to St. Petersburg together, where there is one of the oldest soil museums in the world, a wonderful soil museum that serves many groups visiting the museum. And our tour guide today will be Miss Julia Timofeeva, who will introduce us to some of the soils in the Dokuchaev Central Soil Museum.
Hello from Russia, and let's begin our video. So enjoy it, and after that I will ask your question. So enjoy.
You know that building.
Welcome to the Dokuchaev Central Soil Museum, the oldest soil museum in the world, located in St. Petersburg, Russia. Our museum holds the unique collection of soils from all over the world, and today I will be introducing you the saline soil. This is Geography Hall. There are soil of all climatic zones, include arid, where saline soil are mainly spread. The exposition of our museum has more than 20 monoliths of saline soil from different parts of the world. Well, let's start with introducing the saline soil. The first soil, it is a salinchak. The soil is salined from the top of surfaces. This is clearly visible on these three surfaces. On the top it has a thick 10 cm layer. There are easily soluble salts in amount of at least 1%. The profile of salinchak is poorly differentiated into the horizon, and only whitish salt spots are clearly visible. The conditions for the formation of salinchak are diverse. Often they are formed in arid climate. Our soil's monoliths of salinchak were selected in arid territories of Eurasia, in countries such as Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and southern part of Russia. In order to show to our museum visitors the formation of salinchak in a simple way, we use a special exhibit. Here you can see a salt formation model. The constant upward flow of water is formed with the close occurrence of groundwater. When water evaporates under the heat, salt appear inside the soil. The glowing lines show the uprising stream of water. The white horizon shows the salinization of the soil on its surface. The greenery on such soil is rare and it is represented by the specific Halophytic species. And the formation of salinchak is facilitated by the presence of saline rock. For example, you can see rock salt or the mineral halite. One more type of saline soil is solanates. This soil is disturbed in many climatic zones. It is also represented in the south part of Russia. Solanates have a dense, strongly structured, clearly subsurface horizon that has a high proportion of adsorbed sodium and, in some cases, also magnesium ions. Solanates that contain free soda are strongly alkaline. Our museum presents the collection of nair formations to illustrate the saline soil of the arid zone. One of the most interesting forms of gypsum nair formation is shown in my hand. This is a bunch of large crystals which is called gypsum roses or desert roses, as well as the crystal of sand gypsum and the forked crystal called swallowtails and various bristles formed in hot climate conditions. In addition, our museum has exposition dedicated to the development of agriculture in arid climate, where one of the global problems of this zone is the problem of soil settlement. Saline soils are not represented only in halls of our museums. Those are also stored in our museum funds, and now we're here. The collection of foundation began to form at the end of the 19th century, and the first soil samples were stored in cardboard boxes and glass bottles. Here you can see the different saline soils selected by famous Russian soil scientists at the beginning of the 20th century. Here you can see soil from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and south part of Russia. And also you can see the soil from Algeria, selected by Dranitsin in 1913. The scientist traveled to Algeria and Tunisia in the spring of the 1913. After that, he outlined the results of the trip in his work Trip to Algeria. Or take a look at the samples of Halophytic salinization from Uzbekistan, selected by one of the first Russian women soil scientists whose name is Ekaterina Ivanova in 1913. We also have a lot of soil to show you, and we are always pleased to see you in Dokuchaev Central Soil Museum, Russia.
Well, that was a wonderful tour through part of the exposition in the Dokuchaev Central Soil Museum. Wonderful, and I'm so delighted to see, first of all, the space within the museum, which is so beautiful and shows so many soils, but also the interesting way of displaying processes and educational tools like the LED lights. I really like that, but also the horizontal display of certain horizons, which are diagnostic for instance, saline soil. So that is very nice, Julia. Well done. And my heart beats faster when I see the collection store. So also thank you for showing us the store, because that's really the space on which museums work and have much more to show and educate about, and that is very valuable. I would like to give the floor to a few questions after the tour in St. Petersburg. Yeah, so David Roster said it's a good idea to show a slab of each horizon, not just a vertical cut. That's really true. And also what occurred to me is that, well, I know this, of course, but you presented the Solonets and the Solonchak, and of course, these names have precipitated also in the international classifications, like in WRB, where of course, the Russian School of Soil Science have had its impact also in the names of diagnostics and reference soil groups. Julia, the question is there a museum guidebook in any Western European language for visitors who do not read Russian?
We have a tour guide on English, and you can chat us in social network, and we can show you a tour guide on English language, but you need to write about it because we are not ready to do it every day. Because we have a lot of excursion and we need to prepare halls and time for this excursion. But yes, we have.
Yeah, and how is it with tours in the Dokuchaev Soil Museum? Do you have to register beforehand? How does that work? What is the process of requesting a guided tour? Or is it just when you arrive, you can get a guided tour?
In our museum, you can take this tour guide, and I think on our website you can show it. I will check, and I'm sure you can show it on our website.
Yeah, and Julia, what are the major groups that you serve? What can you say something about the different groups that visit the museum?
Our visitor is different. We love works with children. We have a lot of groups from school and young person who is 4 or 5 years old. Of course, we work with adults, and the main group who visit us is the student and people who connect with soil science. We have excursion, what is it, soil, and we can speak about special soils, for example, Leningrad region where museum is located, or we speak in other soils, and we have a unique collection, so we can speak a lot of them.
Right, thank you. And you spoke about saline soils, different saline soils, so sodium saturated soils, but where do they occur? So that's a question from Emily Turner. Where do you find most saline soils in Russia?
In Russia, saline soils occupy a quite small territories. Generally, it's a southern part of Russia, and it's near 10% of all area of Russia Federation. In our museum, we have the soil monoliths from southern part of Russia and the southern countries such as Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and something like that.
Yeah, and is your museum, is it connected to research of the university? Do you also serve groups that come to study soils from the university?
We have our colleagues works with the university, and my colleagues have a student from St. Petersburg University, and they have research together. For example, for Leningrad region and for southern part of Russia.
Right, thank you. And there's a question from David Rossiter. It is maybe difficult to answer, but he asked what proportion of saline soil. So some soils occur naturally. They are just zonal soils. They occur naturally because of the arid conditions, but some soils some salinity is provoked by management. Do we have any idea how much of the soils, the saline soils in Russia or the former Soviet Union are caused by mismanagement or let's say by management?
Thank you for an interesting question, but I'm not sure about the area and the percent of proportion of saline soils, but you can address this question for our head organization, because Dokuchaev Central Museum is the part of Dokuchaev Soil Science Institute, which is located in Moscow, and there is the whole department for learning the salinization and saline soil, and of course I'm sure that this researcher can answer on this question, but not me.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Julia. So, and there was one more remark from Mohammad Rida Aisawi that was that states that about using fresh water from Aral Lake in irrigation cotton fields in former USSR. But of course, cotton is one in these dry areas is one known land use system that deals also with has to deal with salinity. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Timofeeva, for your interesting excursion. We'll now go actually to where I am, to the World Soil Museum, and one of the things that also is important to note is that many soil museums have a fixed exposition, but also have traveling expositions or artist in residence or temporary expositions where we can highlight a specific topic related to soils with input from external artists, scientists. And in our museum here in Wageningen these months, we are very happy to have Masharu, an artist and scientist that manages and created the Museum of Edible Earth. And Edible Earth says what it is, eating soil, and we will now be guided through this exposition and inform you what it's all about. Hello, welcome to the World Soil Museum of ISRIC World Soil Information. I'm Stefan Mantel, I'm the curator of the World Soil Museum, and in the World Soil Museum we present the soils of the world. We have a big collection of presenting soils from about 85 countries, and here in the Soil Museum we teach about soils, their variety within landscapes, regions and the globe, and the properties and the functions related to those properties. So what that means for land management and big societal issues. We do that by teaching students, but also the general public through storytelling, for instance. In the museum, we have temporary expositions where artists present their work, and we are very proud to have these months the work of Masharu, an artist, a scientist, and an earth eater. And the work presented by Masharu is the Museum of Edible Earth, which are samples, actually edible soil samples. And I think it's nice if we talk to Masharu and ask for explanation about this exposition.
Just walk behind. I want to take this settee. So my name is Masharu. I'm earth eater and earth lover. And besides that, I'm an artist, and as well, I have scientific background. I started assembling collection of the Museum of Edible Earth from different types of earth and soil-like substances, like mostly clay and chalk, limestone, from across the globe. And what unites all these samples is that they're being eaten by human, at least one person, but mostly these are various communities. And this is my personal practice as well as professional practice. So I want to share with you a little bit about my collection. And there are about 200 samples here from 35 countries, from different continents of the planet Earth. And we can taste some samples today with Stefan. We have here on the tasting table different earths, and myself, I am from Russia, so I collaborated as well with the Dokuchaev Soil Museum in St. Petersburg. So I wanted to propose to start our tasting with these tablets from St. Petersburg area. This is Cambrian clay, which is very ancient clay. And you see these tablets are formed as, tablets. Actually, this clay is sold in drugstores as official food supplement. So, Stefan, I would like to invite you to taste some of the Cambrian clay that I brought along from Russia,
Good.
the country where I was born.
Ah, well, so. What is your perception of the taste, Masharu?
It is sticky. It makes me it reminds me of a swamp behind my dacha. It is a country house where I went as a kid. It is tasty, but it also makes me, it does have this taste of a medicine. How is it for you, Stefan?
It's very soft-like. It's, as you say, it's sticky and it is a very fine texture. As a soil scientist, we sometimes put soil in the mouth to assess the sand grains and the clay content. So it's very clay, but it doesn't have a. Normally, when you smell or taste soil, for me, it is a bit. It has a dusty experience, but this is quite okay, quite nice. It is really like edible substance. And the topic of World Soil Day this year is our saline soils. So salinity, and salt is a taste maker in food. So how is that in soil? Do you have saline soils in your collection?
Yes, absolutely. I have, for instance, this earth which is called kisak.
And from where is it?
It comes from Uzbekistan. And it is sold on every market, every food market in Uzbekistan I went, kisak was sold. And this is very salty clay, so I want to offer you to taste some piece. Would you like?
Yes, why not?
I will also take a bit of kisak.
It certainly has a salty taste. And actually makes it tastier, I think.
It makes it tastier than Cambrian clay.
Yeah. But it's also very fine texture.
It has less scent than Cambrian clay.
Yes. I mean, you definitely tasted the salt. Makes it nice.
It's like salty chips.
Yeah.
Cambrian clay is more like a medicine, a kisak is more like a snack.
Yeah.
You can maybe eat it with beer.
Yeah, or in the movie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I have more salty samples. So apparently human like to eat some salty earth.
Yes.
So I have one more, if you want to try, it's from Haiti.
Haiti is very well known for geophagy, right? For eating earth.
That's true. It was on the news quite a few times with it, and of course it's sad to say that the reason for this is lack of food, actually.
Yeah, because eating earth can be done from different perspectives: religion, culture, craving or preference, but also out of necessity.
That's true. Also, sometimes it's used like a medicine, but also it's important to mention that it is not recommended by food authority to eat earth.
That's true. We don't know what it really does in the body. That there are different perceptions about that. And clay is like a battery. It can exchange positive elements, and well, it can take and give in the body as well. So that's a separate discussion, I think.
That's true. So let's eat a little bit of Haitian clay, and I'm going also eat a piece and show it to the camera. So our viewers can feel like they're eating this clay as well.
For me, it's more like the Cambrian clay.
It is less salty than from Uzbekistan.
Yeah, certainly.
But it does have some salt.
Yes, I can taste that. Well, thank you very much, Masharu. It was a very nice experience. I think it's a totally different concept of looking at soil, and I hope people are inspired by it. And there's much more to say about it, but you will continue to travel with this exposition. And thank you very much for showing it here.
Thank you very much for providing the platform for showing this collection, which is now in dialogue with the collection of the World Soil Museum.
Exactly. Can you speak? Okay, so well, you've seen that we are now exactly where the collection of edible earth is, and yeah, it is not a well-known topic, I think, but it's a very interesting topic, and it also shows that there are so many sides to soil, and soil is so much related to culture and other aspects of society and life, and that's why I'm very happy that we can also bring this forward as a topic, and even if someone would resist eating soil, it's only from a philosophical perspective. It's interesting that we're so dependent on soil for life, eating our food that comes through plants and animals to us via the soil, but that soil is directly considered an edible component. Cutting the food chain short is interesting. So yeah, I would like to have questions in, and Masharu, the artist, can answer them. Maybe I can ask the first question, Masharu. Do you remember the first time in your life that you put soil really in your mouth as something to swallow?
Thank you very much, Stefan, for again for the possibility to be here in the museum of the World Soil Museum with the Museum of Edible Earth. And well, first time I don't remember because I was a kid. My grandmother remembers it. She says that when I was 1 year and 8 months, she couldn't stop me from eating sand and clay behind my house. So
yeah. Good. And so, do you remember seeing eating earth as a common practice when you grew up?
Definitely not in my environment in Moscow. I was growing up in Moscow. I have some connection to, for example, Arkhangelsk area, and there I traveled to the villages recently, and I saw that people do practice some kind of eating or tasting of clay or soil, or eating pieces of, traditional oven, which is called pechka.
Ah, right.
Which is also made of clay.
Yes.
This was new for me to discover. This is not something I was raised with.
No.
And I did really have this desires or cravings, I would say. First of all, it started with chalk in the university. And I think it is also very known for many people to taste bits and pieces of chalk.
Right.
And from there, the project evolved.
Yeah. Well, it's so we have another question. I know there are groups in southeastern USA, especially Americans of African origin, who eat clay. This comes from African traditions. Do you know anything? Well, you've traveled the world about eating soil, and so you are probably much aware of this. So can you reflect on this?
Yes, of course, for sure. I have been traveling to different places with the Museum of Edible Earth, and in particular to African continents. And this tradition indeed exists in many countries, on African continent in particular, but not only, also beyond. And in the Museum of Edible Earth, there is earth from, for instance, okay, let me see what I can quickly take from Ghana, for example.
Nigeria.
Yes. This is called Ailo, and this is from Nigeria. Indeed, as Stefan says, it is called Nzu. So there are quite a few samples. And for example, this one is very interesting because it is also baked on fire with different spices. Oh. So it has very particular taste like chips as well. Okay, let's see. We have another question.
From Natalia, so she asked, which is the most tasty soil you have ever tried? Good question.
Right, this is difficult to say because they all have very different tastes. Like, for example, these soils I'm holding now are very different from saline soil that we tasted from Uzbekistan. And honestly, when I saw the images from Dokuchaev, I was like, oh, this is very tasty because it exactly reminds me of the samples I collected in Kyrgyzstan as well on the market. And even in between, I put them here. Like, look, I don't know if you can see it well on the camera. But this is the salty clay, which is sold on the market in Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek, as an edible product. And this exactly on the video reminded me of the samples that Yulia just showed to us.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting that we tasted together the saline soils, and they have a particular. It certainly has. They have a particular taste. And yesterday I talked with Jos van Dam of Wageningen University, and I asked if crops on saline soils also have, and he said that they also have a different taste. So this is certainly an interesting aspect. So the next question is: are only the clay soils edible? Can sandy or loamy soils also be eaten?
All right. So basically, the project Museum of Edible Earth is focused on collecting soil samples which somebody eats. So I did see people eating not only clay. Mostly these are samples with little organic material like chalk or limestone, but there are very different stories. So, for example, I met Stanislava, is a famous earth eater in Lithuania, and she's eating earth from the woods, which has very different components in it. So it's really mixed soil of clay, sand, organics. Well, I have some sample here on the table. I don't know if you see it very well on camera, but you can a little bit maybe get an idea.
Yeah, and you also have this Lufos, which is sold in Germany, which is actually loose, so that is more silk-like texture. And I remember that we've tasted together the soil from the Termite Hill, and that also has quite a bit of sand, right?
That's very true.
Yeah, good. There's another question.
Final question.
Final question.
Two are related, I would say.
Are soils, okay, we'll treat them together. Are soils used as medicine, as antibiotics? And the second question is, do edible soil samples you collect have living or microorganisms in them?
All right, so medicines for sure. And I think the sample that we had from actually Russia, the area of St. Petersburg, is sold in the drugstore as a medicine. It is used for mostly stomach issues. So about antibiotics, I know that soil or like, let's say clay is used for healing the wounds as well. So it has not only internal but external uses traditionally. And about the microorganisms, well, it's a good question. And I would say, yes, I did some microbiological analysis of the samples. And of course, they are very different samples. So sometimes people just collect earth like Stanislava and directly eat it. Sometimes it is processed. Like it can be dried, and also like we just saw a sample from Nigeria, which is roasted. So in these soils, microorganisms are less probable, but still possible. So thank you very much for your attention. I think we need to move on to the next presentation.
Yes, thank you, Masharu. That was very interesting. And I think what we see is that well, this is only one example of how soils can be presented to the public with so many different aspects to soil, and this is really, well, I'm very fascinated by it, and I'm very happy that we have Masharu also today in the museum, sharing also the experience with the collection that was gathered. So We go to the next tour. Now we travel to the Emirates and to the Emirates Soil Museum, which is connected to the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture in Dubai. And our tour guides are Ms. Rima Afani and Dr. Nira. And we'll give the floor to them to present and work on saline soils.
Soil salinization and solidification are two major soil degradation processes which have been threatening our ecosystem. They break down the soils and affect their ability to grow our food. Soil salinity has indeed been a pressing challenge in marginal environments such as the UAE, where water is scarce and soils are rather poor. My name is Rima and I'm the Emirates Soil Museum curator. And I'm very happy to be with you today as we celebrate World Soil Day. The Emirates Soil Museum is an initiative by ICBA, or the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, which is located in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, with the vision and the mission of telling the story of soils, but also educating and raising awareness about the importance of maintaining healthy soils. Today, I'm here with a very special scientist. Her name is Dr. Lira. She is a Halophyte agronomist, and she's been involved in various innovative and sustainable initiatives and projects running here at ICBA, such as the integrated agri-aquaculture systems using reject brine from desalination units, and also cultivating salt-loving plants, which we call also halophytes. Hello, Dr. Lira. It's a great pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate World Soil Day. Dr. Lira, first to begin with, can you briefly tell us a little bit about yourself as a halophyte agronomist?
Thank you, Rima, for the introduction, and it's a real pleasure to be invited for this special day, the World Soil Day. So the integrated agri-aquaculture system is a system that combines agriculture and aquaculture components, utilizing the reject brine from desalination. And why actually we are focusing on the reject brine? We are all familiar that in regions like Middle East and North Africa, almost 70% of the reject brine is produced in this region. So we fully understand that in order to produce food in desert, in hot and arid climates, reject brine is it's a massive water resource that could be utilized for food production. So this is where exactly we are focusing in a more unconventional way to produce food, utilizing this byproduct from desalination to grow fish, and then the fish waste are utilized as nutrients, as fertilizer, to grow these salt-loving plants, the so-called halophytic plants. So what is exactly a halophyte, and how? Because as my colleague Rima said, I'm a halophyte agronomist, so I'm focusing on how we can grow in a sustainable way with the proper management practices these salt-loving plants that can be used for various uses, for food, for human consumption as food, even as animal feed, and for other industrial and medicinal uses as well.
Very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Lira. Can we have a look at the integrated agri-aquaculture systems and have a look at how it works inside? Do you want to show us around?
Yes, for sure. Please welcome. So we start, as you see here, we have our aquaculture system established. So this is where actually we grow tilapia with the reject brine from desalination. Just to give you an idea, the salinity of the water that we are testing for tilapia is approximately 80% of the seawater salinity, which is really high, water salinity to consider for production components to grow. So tilapia is producing through the waste ammonia. Then ammonia is decomposed through nitrifying bacteria to nitrite and then to nitrate. So the nitrate is the useful form of nitrogen that is utilized later on by our halophytic plants and specifically Salicornia. So we are applying here what we call the saline aquaponics, and why saline? Because normally aquaponics are fresh water based. However, since we are utilizing the reject brine from desalination, we are calling it as saline based aquaponics. So apart from the growing Salicornia with water coming from the fish, we are also growing Salicornia in the field, so in the soil actually. Of course, the salinity management issues is something that we have to take care of, so that we can avoid through application of leaching fractions and drainage systems and proper applied drainage systems to avoid the salts built up in the soil.
Very good. Let's have a look at the fish tanks. Would you like to show us?
Yes, for sure.
So you mentioned tilapia as the fish species that are growing in such highly saline environment.
Yes.
Are there any other species that can be grown in this?
Yes, for sure. You understand that we can grow other seawater-based fish species as well, like sea bream, sea bass, or even some local fish species that can be found in UAE and can increase the market price and the profitability of the system overall. However, tilapia is, let's say, disease, salinity and temperature resistant as a fish species, and frankly speaking is easy to grow. So this is why tilapia is very popular in such kind of systems to integrate as a fish species.
Amazing. So you have 3 fish tanks over here. So
Correct.
This is the second step after desalination. After that, we have the water that is full of waste and fish waste, which is nutrients for the plants, right?
Correct. So after the fish tanks, we have two more stages where actually the water from the fish is filtered. So in the biofiltration tank, we have mechanical filters like these biomedia balls, and of course in these biomedia balls there are some nitrifying bacteria that they have their colonies here. So this dirt that you see here is exactly these bacteria that are living in this bowl. So why we are having such kind of let's say items, and these balls here, exactly to increase the surface of the bacteria to grow and to propagate, because they need more surface area. And apart from that, the bacteria, they need some time as the water from the fish and the waste comes through in this specific tank, they need time to decompose. So we are somehow, through this kind of mechanical approach, we try exactly to delay the water coming out from this specific tank, so that we can exactly maximize the decomposition of ammonia to nitrate, which is actually the useful form of nitrogen by the halophytic plants later on.
All right, so then the next stage will be the halophytes, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about the species of halophytes that you've been that have been showing some promising results in such hostile and saline environments?
Yes, for sure. So one of our, let's say, flagship halophytic and plants, and these salt-loving plants that we are growing here at ICBA are is actually Salicornia. So this is, you can see that this is a fresh, it's a fresh, it's a Salicornia at a fresh vegetative stage. Although now it's moving to the flowering stage, so you see here the flowers are developed, the yellow and the white, the yellow spots and the white hairs here. So Salicornia, why there is so much focus on it? First of all, this species Salicornia bigelovi. So this is was introduced, let's say, although there is a native species of Salicornia here in UAE, it's called Salicornia europea. However, the Salicornia bigelovi species has the ability to, specifically for the seeds, they have higher oil content in the seeds. Salicornia can be utilized as for human consumption, so we can cut the fresh tips and they can be consumed as fresh, or through the collaboration that we have with the food company Global Food Industries here in UAE. We are developing Salicornia-based food products like burgers, like crackers, biscuits, even juices, sweets, and salty even products, which are really interesting for someone to explore.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lira. Can you tell us a little bit more about how ICBA and your team has been working on raising awareness about the nutritional benefits of these halophytic products?
Yes,
for
sure.
Programs you have?
Correct. So starting from Salicornia, of course, and from ICBA point of view, of course, Salicornia is, let's say, our first, one of the flagship halophytic crops that we are really very much focusing on. How to, apart from applying the proper management practices and improve the agronomic management of this halophyte, we are also focusing on the value chain of it. And apart from Salicornia, we're also having in the pipeline some other halophytes too that can follow the same direction, like for example sea beet, like rock samphire, like ice plant even. So we run exactly because we want to focus and to increase the market segment here in UAE. We are applying, we are been running for the last 2 years now the Halophytic Kitchen Lab program, where the target is to raise public awareness. So we have participants coming from universities, from schools, from corporate sector, and they are becoming more familiar about sustainable farming in the desert, and also about the nutritional benefits of these halophytic crops. And also about, in general, how we can increase and the importance of having a more increased local produced food in UAE and beyond the borders of UAE. We, of course, the COVID unfortunately somehow impeded our plans, but from the last summer onwards until now, we're really happy to have more than 300 participants attending this Halophytic Kitchen Lab program, raising awareness with great positive feedback about this activity.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Lira. It was a great pleasure to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to talk us through these pioneering projects. These are only some of the many innovative and sustainable projects happening here at ICBA. We welcome you to visit our website if you'd like to find out more about our projects and initiatives. And also, of course, please visit us at our premises for a field tour and a museum tour. Happy World Soil Day, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Rima and Dr. Lira. This was a very interesting and spot-on topic for this theme for World Soil Day. And of course, there's much to learn about this topic, especially in centers like yours, where you have a lot of experience with dryland agriculture and salinity. And one question I have to you is, welcome, Dr. Lira. And one question I have is, how does the work of the Emirates Soil Museum and the Research Institute overlap?
Hello, Stefan. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be part of your celebration. Well, the Emirates Soil Museum is basically an initiative by ICBA. It started back in 2016 with the vision and mission to educate about the importance of maintaining healthy soils, raising awareness about it through different programs. Of course, we work with corporates, with schools, with the public, and so on. We do use that, like the museum is an initiative to kind of reflect on the scientific research that's being done at ICBA and to tell more about all of these solutions and innovative solutions that are coming out of ICBA.
Well, that's just fantastic. I mean, that there's also so much attention for education and advocacy, and also bringing research results to the public. That's really great. And I was also very happy to see that you did not only focus on the process of soil salinization, but how to manage that and how to see that in a more holistic way, in an integrated way, like the example of the halophytes. I remember when I was small, my mother asked me, when they lived in an area outside in Spain, to go with my father and get something for the salad. And I was thinking that we would go to the shop, but my father stopped at an area of where there was brackish water, and he actually collected exactly the crops that you showed, just the tips of the plants, and that brought a bit of salt and taste to the salad. So that was nice to see, and it's something also for the future. We have to think about how to use already saline soils, because that is a reality, and be smart in management of them. Okay, thank you very much. This was really another wonderful tour showing the diversity there is in soil education and advocacy, and that also shows that there are so many different topics that can be addressed in different ways, and also shows that we can learn so much from each other, also as soil museums and experts and collection managers. Yes, we are close to the end of the of this session, and yeah, I would like to highlight that well, the importance of the Global Soil Museum Network, of course, and of World Soil Day. So we will show you the website. Oh, there's one more question from David Roster. I will allow that question before I close. Are you growing salt-tolerant tomatoes? Well, there are more crops than just tomatoes, cabbage, I think, and it's true that what I mentioned before, that crops grown on saline soils, they have a different taste, but that's the question from David. Do you also grow salt-tolerant tomatoes? Maybe Dr. Lira?
Very good question. Yeah, I think Dr. Lira will be able to give us some more information about it.
So yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for the invitation. You hear some back noise. I'm outside now because today is also the 50th Golden Jubilee of UAE. So we are celebrating UAE unity and the nation here of United Arab Emirates. So sorry, apologies for the noise behind and the background. So yes, we have tried some experiments with salt-tolerant tomatoes in the past. In collaboration with cows. So there is, I mean, quite an experience from that aspect. And I have personally tasted salt-tolerant tomatoes in Netherlands when I attended one conference in 2019. And they were really tasty. Of course, the size of the tomatoes was not the big one as we are familiar with. However, the size was much more decreased. The flesh, the outer layers of the tomato was a bit harder, but really it was a really delicious one. And regarding, I read another question in the chat, what is the acceptance of such salt-loving plants from the local communities? Our experience so far has shown that of course, UAE is very much known, is well known for this multinational and multicultural kind of fusion of cuisines and different kind of tastes. So I should say the communities here are much more prone to embrace such kind of products. And so far, through this Halophytic Kitchen Lab program that we are running with Rima and with with a good team of colleagues on board, we have huge participation from schools, universities, corporate sector, and they're really much fascinated about the different kind of recipes and dishes that our chef is creating by having salicornia as one of the ingredients for these recipes. So I see a huge potential, not only for salicornia, but as I mentioned in the video, for other salt-loving plants in the pipeline to follow this similar direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lira. Yes, it's so true what you say. We're all global citizens now, and there are so many ways to influence the taste and the likings of people, but there needs to be attention for that, and we all have to work together, like the industry, but also educational centers and influencers through Instagram and other platforms. So this will surely find its way, and then that will also ultimately help improve soil management. If salicornia is more accepted, then that is very helpful. Good, thank you very much all. I'm very happy with all your contributions, and I would like to close this session. And yeah, so once more, I would like to highlight the importance of at least our efforts for the Global Soil Museum Network, so that we have a common platform for exchange. And we have built a website that is going to be further developed. And well, as you have seen from the different contributions, there's so much knowledge, ideas, and experience and tools to share. But then we can think further ahead to also create joint expositions or loan out from the stores of our museums, loan out objects, and organize educational programs and global awareness initiatives, events, conferences, but even collaborate on research and education. Yeah, and virtual expositions together. That's if there is a topic, we can all contribute from our own collections and experience. So that's really wonderful. So we will continue to work on this. And if you are a collection manager or a head of the museum, then please join our network and show your interest through our website, the www.soilsexposed.org. Yes, so thank you for joining us today, and I hope you will join other events of the World Soil Day as well, and we hope to see you again on another event of the Global Soil Museum Network. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.